Welcome, everyone. Once again, it is your boy Joshua Joshi Howard coming at you live from Seattle, Washington, bringing you all the LJL action here as we start to move into the finals. I'm joined today by Zane Zen Nelson. If you've been with us at all from Super League Gaming, you've probably met us a couple times. We've been up in the Seattle Action Squad for the past couple of weeks. But real quick, we got to talk a little bit about these two teams. And if you've been following the LJL, the League of Legends Japan League, at all, ever, it should be no surprise that we once again have the next episode of the long-standing rivalry between Detonation Focus Me and Rampage. Now, Rampage took the last playoffs win in the spring finals in a very convincing fashion, winning 3-0 and earning their spot at the mid-season invitational wildcard play-in, where they did not do that great, but they also managed to go to Rift Rivals as the first seed, where they did much better. Detonation Focus Me has the more recent record, though. Since the regular season started, they've beaten Rampage twice, earning a 4-1 win ratio in the games this season, and not dropping a single game at Rift Rivals. Now, it's not all sun and rainbows over here for Detonation Focus Me. Rampage has had a much more consistent season thus far, only dropping games to Detonation Focus Me, 2-0ing every single other team in the league, and ending the season 8-2. They just have a fresh win as well up against 7th Heaven, one of the other teams here in the League of Legends Japan League, which has been on the uprise ever since Unsolved Stuff Gaming has started to fall down a little bit. But Detonation Focus Me has had a much rockier season, despite the fact that they ended 9-1 on the split. They managed to beat every single team except for 7th Heaven, who did manage to take a set, but they dropped a game to literally every team in the league, including Burning Core, who ended the entire season without winning a single set. Now, with the recent record 4-1, they didn't do that great in the last best of 5 they played, but tonight we're going to have to see if they can maintain their recent record over Rampage and continue throughout this best of 5 tonight. Welcome, Zane. We're going to be getting in just a couple of moments. As everybody's used to, we're going to be taking a long time here as we go through some introductions of the players. But how have you been doing recently?
I have been doing absolutely fantastic, Josh. It's good to get back onto the casting desk with you. And I mean, it's always really fun as we get to the end of these seasons for the LGL to see how much infrastructure has changed and how these teams adapted. Yes, we've seen Rampage versus Detonation Focus Me, time and time again, but it's always really exciting to me to see how much they've changed over the course of the season. Rampage sticking with their tried and true team composition. They had Evie, Tussle, Ramune, Yutori, and Dara for the entirety of last year as well. And so they've done a really great job of just, making sure that team gels well and is here ready today to perform. And I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to compare them to Detonation Focus Me, who still has 4 of the members the last time these guys went head-to-head in the playoffs. The only thing that they've changed since then was they ended up picking up what was his name? Steel in the Jungle, formerly played for KT Rolster, and more recently than that, Millennium over in Europe's Challenger scene, is now going to be playing here for Detonation Focus Me, bumping Paz up back to the top lane where he used to play, and Utapone, who was a top laner last split, now going back to the place where he was playing originally at the AD carry. And look at that, Utori, they've all got those little cheek tattoos. I love it.
That's so sick. Also, like, the production level on this arena that they're playing in is so high. I'm pretty pumped just by the visuals alone. Like, look at that smoke. We got smoke for the finals.
They haven't done anything like this. Like, I remember last time they just were playing, I believe it was Esports Square in Akihabara last time. It was just nowhere near the production level that they're able to bring out right now, and it really has been a huge jump in everything they've been able to do recently. So we'll have to see if that's how much that'll affect the players, because they have a bigger crowd now than they ever have before. And will that affect their nerves at all? Is that something that, they'll be used to dealing with? Because they haven't been playing with a crowd since Rift Rivals. They're used to playing in a much more isolated environment where they don't have to deal with the noise that all those people bring with them.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, too, because this rivalry is basically the LJL version of TSM versus CLG, right? Like, these teams are the top of the top for their league, and they've been battling it out time and time again fighting for this championship for what, 3 seasons now? Is this third season in a row
Oh,
that they're gonna be in the finals, or is that even
at
further?
least 3 years. They've been doing it for a couple seasons. Definitely, I believe like 6 splits at this point as well.
Good lord. Yeah, and so you have to wonder, on this stage with that history behind them, will they be able to play their best, or will the nerves get to them? Personally, I feel that at this level they're going to be just fine, but we'll have to see if I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's talking about the history a little bit. We talked about their recent history. Let's go back down memory lane a little bit and talk about where these teams came from. Ever since the LJL started back when it was just called the Japan Premier League, we saw in the first season Detonation Focus Me, who was just Detonation Gaming at the time, did manage to pull that out. But in the second season, later that year, they did end up losing the title back to Rampage in a 3-1 victory. Of course, a couple of times since then, it's gone back and forth. Detonation Focus Me took the next one in 2015 as well, and giving it right back as Rampage picks it up very closely in the round robin during the first split of the League of Legends Japan League as we know it today, back in summer of 2016, ending 9-1 to Detonation Gaming's 9-2 in terms of games. And they ended up taking the first season there as well. Then last split, we saw once again Detonation Focus Me picks up the round robin, going having nearly a perfect record, going 8-2, only dropping games to Unsold Stuff and Rampage Gaming before losing 3-0 in the finals there, and now they come back with an even stronger record against Rampage. So these guys have been playing for a long time against each other. These two, like you said, TSM, CLG, they've been playing. They have this widespread rivalry that they've just been having for such a long time, and it's starting to show with like all the members. These guys have played on so many different teams over the years, just now coming together, just building these two Japanese super teams in many ways that we're used to seeing in something like Europe, and just bring it to the forefront, and hopefully we'll be able to see exactly how well they do here.
Yeah, and you can see now Detonation Focus Me getting ready, getting introduced on the stage. Sarah's just walking up right before there. Now we're going to see Utapon. Utapon, a very interesting guy, was playing top lane last split, but seems to have really grown into his own on the AD carry role going in to this final match here, with a very solid record on both that Caitlyn and that Ashe. We'll have to see if that's going to be his champion of choice as we move forward.
Yeah, Utapon's a very interesting player because he's been moving back and forth between roles a number of times. He started as an AD carry, and he's been with Detonation Focus Me since the very beginning. But he started as an AD carry, played top lane for a split, went back to AD carry, went back to top lane, and now he's back to his home where he started playing originally. And he's been playing alongside Saros for a long time as well. Both of them were original members of this roster. They ended up picking up Vivid, Steel, and Paz along the way, and just now coming out and just really showing how strong and how loyal Detonation Focus Me is to these players.
Yeah, it's always really exciting to see a organization sort of really give it their all towards their players and give them all the resources that they need in order to succeed. And you can see that here. These teams have gone basically, well, I don't want to say entirely uncontested, but clearly have the upper edge in their region. Very, very strong teams for the LJL, and able to just come back to these finals year after year after year because of that consistent support from their organizations.
And hopefully we'll get to see that as they continue to go forward. I believe we talked a little bit about Unsold Stuff Gaming falling down a little bit, but I don't think they're necessarily any worse than they were in previous splits. They did just fine at Rift Rivals, which is the last time most people saw them, actually the only time anybody has seen them internationally, where they did incredibly well there through some unconventional strategies, particularly the Warwick that Neo was famous for playing over there. But they, Seventh Heaven and Rascal Jester have really stepped it up. And now, last split during the spring, we saw a two-tiered system between the two teams, or excuse me, between the two systems. There was Detonation Focus Me, Rampage, and Insult Stuff at the top, and there was Seventh Heaven, Rascal Jester, and Scars on the bottom. Burning Court comes in and upsets that quite a bit because we end up just having Detonation Focus Me and Rampage on top, Unsold Stuff, Rascal Jester, and Seventh Heaven in the middle, and now Burning Core just creates a new third tier, unfortunately on the bottom, having had a very unsuccessful season. But now they're going to be got to start talking a little bit about these rosters once again. We've seen some interesting stuff, so let's just talk down the roster starting at the top lane. Evie and Paz, these two guys have really, really enjoyed this summer split.
Yeah, absolutely. And, playing pretty interesting champion pools as well. Paz really favoring that Renekton and Jarvan this season. He really likes playing aggressive, sort of carry top laners who can take a lead early and then push it out. Evie, he does like that Jarvan and that Camille, but he has also shown a propensity for those tank champions. Has some solid games on the Maokai and the Gragas. Has only been playing Maokai since week 8. So, well, I have to wonder if I assume that he's prepared more than just Maokai for this event. I'm excited to see, if Detonation Focus Me decides that that's an avenue that they want to target ban.
Yeah, it is interesting to see. We still see a number of bans being targeted towards his Camille and Paz's Fiora every now and then, simply because of how strong these guys have been on these champions historically. We haven't seen, we do say that Paz played a lot of Renekton, but he hasn't played that character since week 6 when he played it against 7th Heaven, and I don't expect to see it here either. We haven't seen a lot of Renekton in Japan or around the world nearly as much ever since we started seeing the transition to characters like Maokai and that Cho'Gath once again, is instead focusing more on things that are a little bit tankier, like that Cho'Gath, the Maokai, and the Shen. We start to move down a little bit. We got to talk about the difference between Tussle and Steel. These guys have two very, very different play styles. Tussle has been a much more aggressive, very aggro, very carry style jungler, and he really enjoyed the spring split when characters like Graves and Kha'Zix were really on top. And he's not quite had the same amount of success as we've moved into the summer split. He's instead been focusing more on playing around his team. We've seen a little bit in his kill participation. He had under 70, actually 68% in spring, and now it's 76% as he starts playing things more like the Gragas and the Zac, able to provide a little bit more utility and tankiness for his team. It does say he has the Ivern on there, but he hasn't played Ivern nearly as much, partly because it's been banned out a fair amount, but also partly because he's only really played it towards the beginning of the split, which was a big criticism that they had at MSI, was that Tussle did not play Ivern, and it forced Japan to ban out Ivern against every single other team because they just did not have it in their repertoire.
Right, and that's always difficult to deal with, like the expectation, right, is to play that champion and do it well. On that hard stage at MSI, where there's so much pressure and that you're going up against very strong teams during that group stage. Meanwhile, though, I want to talk a little bit about Steel. Particularly, he's been playing Sejuani a fair amount and has a monster record on it, 5-0 at the moment on that champion, but has never played it versus Rampage. 12.3 KDA even. So like very, very strong on this sort of tank initiator type role for Detonation Focus Me. I'm curious if that's going to be the play that he wants to make as we make it into this pick and ban phase, or if he wants to go for something maybe a little more versatile with more early game power, like the Gragas or the Elise.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's been banned out a fair number of times before simply because of how strong of a pocket pick it has been historically. And like you said, with a 12.3 KDA, it's mostly just because this guy is not dying on that character. Despite starting every single fight, jumping into the middle of the enemy team, he's just sitting there and keeping himself alive for so long after the lockup, knowing exactly when to exit the fight. And that's what he's been doing quite well. We see a number of games he's had on those tankier champions like the Sejuani, even the Gragas and the Maokai, even though Gragas does tend to go towards a more damaging build with the Runic Echoes, but he's also well known for his Zac play, and that's been drawing a lot of bans, even after all the nerfs that it has had over don't want to say the years, but over the weeks and the months that we've been in the 2017 season 7. And it's likely to see a couple more bands here as well. Now, I'm sure you remember the only champion it felt like Romney was playing in spring.
Yeah, wasn't he a Syndra dude for the
Yeah,
longest time, and then an Oriana dude for the longest time? I'm happy to see that he's branched out this season and started picking up Talia and Galio, sort of widening and opening up his champion pool this split.
yeah, I think this split, with the changes a little bit in the mid lane meta, has really helped out Rampage quite a bit. Before he was stuck on that Syndra, he ended up having more than half of his games on that single champion the entire split. He did play a lot of Talia, he did play a lot of Orianna, and he still has that Syndra in his repertoire as one of the more common champions that he's played, but the Galio and the Karma are characters that he is starting to be much more successful with, simply because he's not the star of Rampage. He is a very supportive style of player, especially at the professional level, because he just is surrounded by so many incredible players. Evie, Tussle, Yutori, and Dara are all the number one or number two in their spot, just about uncontested in what it is that they're doing. So Ramune doesn't need to be the powerhouse in the mid lane, but he is going to be playing up against one of the strongest players Japan has ever seen in Saras, who has been really enjoying this move back to characters that are a little bit more caster oriented. We've seen his Ziggs come out very impactfully recently, as he really see a lot of fast push strategies coming out from Detonation Focus Me, getting early towers and able to siege up for long periods of time with the poke and wave clear that character has. But we also have been seeing a couple of things. We got to see his Zillion the last time that they played up against Rampage during week 10, and they just played this very slow style of fighting where he just is able to pick and choose his targets whenever somebody gets low. He just brings them back to life and gets right back into the 5v5. And all of these caster more barrage style, if you will,
Right.
archetypes are really starting to benefit him, and he's starting to come back as a very strong carry member of the team.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you talk about team dynamics between these two teams because, even like I think 2 minutes ago or so, we saw a graphic show up and it compared Saros' score to Tussle's score in terms of kill participation, kill KDA, and they're very similar. And that's interesting. You don't typically think of matching mid laner to jungler, but that's really where the strength of Rampage versus Detonation Focus Me lies. Rampage, uh, Ramen is a great player, but he plays that supportive role. Tussle and Yutori are the main carries for that team. They get stuff done. Tussle is a super aggressive jungler. He gets stuff done so that Yutori can carry out the game. Ramen is just along for the ride to provide some shields and some CC for his team. But over on Detonation Focus Me side, though, Saros is an absolute monster. It always seems to me like he's the one who's making the plays, who's making the shots. You know, champions like Ziggs and Oriana, the sort of champions that he favors, allows him to make very decisive decision making. Ziggs can say, okay, we're going to push down this bottom tier turret because I have that ability. I can do so much damage to a turret that we can take an advantage here. Oriana with that ball, one ultimate can absolutely steal away a game. uh, and yeah, so I'm curious to see how these two butt heads once again in this middle lane. Will Saras be able to take an aggressive lead, or will Ramane be able to, play his own style of game and just support his team to a quick victory?
Yeah, and it's interesting to see as well a little bit in the difference in how, particularly Saras and Ramane, their champion pools morph around. We saw last split that Ramane really only had a champion pool of 4 champions, meaning that other team could kind of pick and choose what it was that they wanted. Often meant that they left the Syndra up for first pick because they knew that Rampage would first pick it almost every time, just to make sure that Ramane had that comfort pick to go back to. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Saros has played 11 champions this split, with Ario, Galio, Jace, LeBlanc, Vel'Koz, Orianna, Syndra, Ziggs, Heimerdinger, Karma, and Zillion. Now, he's only played a couple of these a couple of times. He's only played Vel'Koz twice. He's played Ziggs a bunch, but he's only played Heimerdinger and Zillion once apiece. But it just shows how deep his champion pool is, how widely he's mastered the game, and how smart of a player he is, whereas Ramne is a little bit more one-dimensional and the way that he's able to play around the rest of his team. And it'll be interesting to see exactly what it is that Saros does choose to bring out this time around.
Yeah, and it also definitely affects the banning strategies for both teams, right? On Rampage's side, if you're looking to ban out, against Detonation Focus Me, do you even bother necessarily banning, putting target bans towards Saros? You might ban a Ziggs just because it's a very obnoxious and difficult champion to play around, but outside of that, you know that he's going to have, a counter to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's gonna be able to play a champion at a professional level decently well, right?
Mm-hmm.
On stage and not screw up. And so then if you're on Rampage, perhaps you look at shutting down other carries on Detonation Focus Me side. Perhaps you ban out Steel Sejuani and try to limit his champion pool. Or Udapon on his 80 carries, which he favors sort of safe 80 carries like the Caitlyn, the Ashe, and the Callista, people who can get away from people, right?
Absolutely.
That
And
might be
well,
the play to go for. But let's see what we're doing right now.
it's no surprise we're coming out. We've talked a couple times about it historically, but Camille with Evie is such an incredibly strong split pusher. There's no surprise there's just banning that right away. We don't want another episode of the Evie show, but they're going to be banning out the Ziggs as well. Again, denying both sides some of their signature strategies between allowing Evie to split push and allowing Ziggs from that Sarah's, denying a lot of these major strategies that we've seen them use historically. Now, the Lucian ban against Utori is a little bit interesting. We haven't seen him play just about any Lucian at all this season. In fact, he's played almost so many of his games on the Varus, and he hasn't played Lucian at all. So that must be a scrimmage thing. We haven't seen it played by Ramune or Evie either. So I'm wondering where that's coming from. But we do see the Galio coming out once again, denying it away, mostly from Ramune. We haven't seen Evie really play that. And this Callista ban is really interesting. We've only seen Utapon play that twice this split, and he has not done well on that character. Only a 2.9 KDA, lost both games, and they were both against 7th Heaven. But we do see the first pick coming out. No surprises, just like it was back in spring. We're going to see a couple of junglers picked up as we see Elise and Gragas taken by DFM and RPG respectively.
Yeah, and a very interesting draft just by the first ban phases. You can sort of see both teams very wary of their opponents, know what their strengths are. The Ziggs ban coming out because they don't want to see Saros at Ziggs. And then Rampage taking the strategy where they target down Udapon in the 80 carry role, banning out 2 80 carries. They knew Detonation Focus Me is going to ban that Lucian because Utori, although he hasn't played it much this split, he played a ton of it in the last split to much success. And so they decided, Detonation Focus Me decided they didn't want to see that. Rampage going to be happy, though, locking in that Gragas and Tristana for a safe team with some early game power with a late game powerhouse.
Yeah, and we do see the Lovers bot lane coming out. Utapon and Vivid are going to be picking up Zaya and Rakan there. Very well known for being a very strong combination simply because of the incredible range that it does give over to Rakan's engage abilities between the quickness and the grand entrance. And this is interesting. We haven't seen Ramune play Corki at all this split. So this is an interesting change that we haven't seen them play around before. And it looks like Dako, the coach there for Detonation, is a little bit surprised. We saw a little bit come out of that his face there. But we're going to go in the next range of bans right here. And with both the solo laners left for Detonation Focus Me, it does give Rampage interesting. Renekton.
Yeah, Rampage has, although Ramune has not played Corki very much, it does it seems to me like Rampage is picking a very safe composition. Corki doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses in the laning phase. Very solid, hits a level 6 power spike. Tristana will always be a late game threat as long as you can survive the first 15 minutes or so. And it seems like Detonation Focus Me is going to be the team that has the impetus to make things happen. They have that power pick in the Lover bot lane as well as the Elise. They're able to start fights very quickly and very easily. And moving forward, Rampage sees this and wants to ban out champions that synergize well with Rakan and with Elise's engage, taking away that Shen, not allowing Paz to get that split push plus engage combination. I like that decision. Meanwhile, Detonation Focus Me banning the Gnar as a response to the Shen, which I think I like as well.
Yeah, I do like that Nara ban. It is, really well known as a counter to Renekton, but here it's something that Evie could easily blind pick, and it's a good pick up against things like that Cho'Gath. Now, that Heimerdinger is not a troll hover, but this is what I was going to say earlier. Jarvan the Fourth still left up. Rampage seems to be was building a very strong defensive composition, able to kite back quite well. And we do see the Heimerdinger
Woo!
coming out. I'm excited, but it does mean that they wanted to deny Detonation Focus Me a lot of engage tools, and neither Renekton nor Shen are particularly well known for their engage. And this Blitzcrank rounding out the composition is very interesting. We still see it's an incredibly strong Ardent Sensor meta, and Janna, Karma are both still up, as well as Lulu. And paired with the Tristana, I'm not super sold that this Alistar is the best pick coming out for them. But we do see the Heimerdinger coming out there for Saros. It's going to be an exciting lane right there in the mid lane, as we do see these two Yordles going right at it the entire time. And there's a lot of knockups, knockups, knockbacks available for Rampage right now. So they'll be able to move him around and hopefully keep him separated from all of his turrets.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that the Alistar pick allows Rampage to be perhaps a little bit more aggressive than their team composition initially sort of was looking to be. It's somewhat difficult. Cho'Gath is a very strong pick at the moment with the changes to his E, but it's difficult for him to land his abilities necessarily, the silence and the Q, at a competitive level if you don't have another member of your team helping you land those abilities. If you can chain them, it's very, very powerful. But with that Alistar pickup, Rampage is going to have that ability to initiate. However, I have to worry, though, for them, because Detonation Focus Me also has a composition who can do a lot with very little, right? If Heimerdinger's turrets stay alive in a team fight and he can just sort of kite back out of the Alistar, it's going to be very difficult for these heavy tanks at a Rampage to really put in a lot of damage. Xayah also fantastic at kiting, particularly with that ultimate, able to dodge CC. So whichever team gets a lead, I think, is going to be the team that really has to push for fights and push for fights hard. If they make one simple mistake, either team has this ability to kite back and keep their carries alive and perhaps turn a team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It'll be interesting to see this Heimerdinger. Again, it's not a troll pick. He's picked it before. They played it against Rascal Jester last. I believe it was in week 8 or 9, but we are going to be going right into a pause, unfortunately. Now, it'll be interesting to see exactly what they do choose to do around Heimerdinger's large turret. Everybody knows the lower elo you go, the harder it is to play around this champion, because you just walk up, he puts down his turret, does a quarter of your turret's health, and you can't do anything about it, because you try and fight him, he'll just re-aggro onto you, and you won't be able to really move around a whole lot. But there's plenty of tools available on Rampage's side. Now, I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but you should be able to knock it away with both Alistar and with Gragas' explosive cask, as well as feast it and smite it. So there's plenty of tools to deal with it pretty quickly. And I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sold on the Heimerdinger in this particular game, because it feels to me like Rampage has too many options to deal with some of the things that make this character really powerful.
I agree with you there. It's going to be an interesting pick. I'm excited to see it, particularly in this matchup up against the Corki. Saros and Ramune have not played this matchup, at least not on a competitive level before. And so I'm curious to see where their sort of strengths and weaknesses lie. Ramune can't necessarily push in Saros as much as he maybe would another champion. Ramune, the Corki, pretty good about doing that, particularly around like level 4 or level 5.
Ooh,
But already able to clear out the turrets before Saros is able to set them up. Smart moves here. Little bit of trading now. Saros not quite able to proc the Thunderlords. That's going to be a-okay for him. Detonation Focus Me looking to start on the bottom jungler. So mirrored starts. They're not going to be on the same side as we move forward into this game, which should be pretty interesting to see what Tussle and Steel can do around that 4-minute mark.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the evolution in the jungle pathing that we've seen. Detonation Focus Me was well known for a lot of their did he not finish it on purpose? He must be better than that. But it's been interesting to see a lot of the changes as we saw a lot of movement, particularly around the Raptor camps. Detonation Focus Me was one of the early pioneers, a little bit of trading here in the bot lane, one of the early pioneers of not taking the big Raptor there in order to get early ganks off with Steel, able to run up to the top lane on things like that Rek'Sai and that Sejuani, and just get there before your opponent really expected it. But now that, everybody's kind of expecting it because they've done it so much, it's not nearly as powerful as it used to be, and we've started seeing teams move away from it now that it's the expected thing to do.
Yeah. Detonation Focus Me making a minor error there you saw in that bottom lane trade. Not quite able to connect the Rakan W onto Tristana, and that does end up in a lost trade for them, unfortunately, which is not particularly something that you want to see when you're up against this monster farmer in Yutor Miyasi. Dude is a madman, just able to get so much farm for his team. He carries so much gold for Rampage, and Detonation Focus Me really has to make a conscious effort to shut him down, which perhaps might be happening. Steel is might be looking for a gank either in the middle or the bottom lane here.
Yeah, and the two junglers will find each other here pretty quickly as they're both looking for the Scuttle Crab. Instead, Steel's going to be hovering around. Tussle is a little bit low on mana. Steel's got a full thing. Ooh, manages to smite it away. That extra pressure coming out from that Scuttle Crab will help quite a bit, getting more knowledge on where Tussle is. And right now, he's coming in towards the mid lane. Steel's going to use that repel, trying to find the stun. Flash is not used, just going to be using the cleanse right there to get himself out. This Spider Link could finish the job. Oh, just barely manages to walk away. But that's going to be a good gank coming out from Steel. No fear, he knew.
The balls of Steel there. Knows exactly how much health he's changing.
Vivid goes in onto Tristana one more time. Just going to be able to jump away from that. A lot of damage going back onto Dara here. Not able to get the last stun proc coming out from that new passive, moving over to, I believe it's his E now. One more time. Yeah, it used to be his heal, but Evie and Paz up here, knowing that Tussle is nowhere nearby. They do have a potential opportunity for a dive here if they do choose to push it in, but there's so many minions here. I think they're going to be backing away, and everybody's just going to be fine for a little while.
Yeah. Interesting scuffles across the map. You can see sort of the early strength of this Rakan Xayah combo in the bottom lane, able to have so many options in both engaging and disengaging, and sort of the weakness of Tristana. Outside of her explosive shot, she doesn't really have a lot of strong trading tools, and if she's not in range to hit the Xayah, then you're probably going to win any trade that you initiate on Detonation Focus Me side. Meanwhile, Steel,
one more opportunity here, looking for a cocoon onto Evie. Does manage to land it from Fog Warrior. Here comes the knockup. They're getting a lot of damage. Evie's going to be forced to flash almost immediately as they're starting to go under turret. Steel's not the one tanking. He's going to have to use the repel fairly soon. Tries to get out. Does use the repel, but he is probably going to end up trading. No, flashes away. Does manage to pick up first blood. Well played there coming out from Steel. That looked bad at the beginning.
Yeah, I was very worried. Typically whenever you see that classic Elise top lane gank, you want Elise to be tanking the turret first because the repel does allow you to reset turret aggro. But masterfully played and coordinated by Detonation Focus Me, able to make it work even with Paz taking the initial damage.
Yeah, and we saw, I just want to show how impressed I was with Steel managing to use the repel perfectly in time with Evie's rupture, not getting knocked up there, because if he had been able to hit that definitely would have spelled the death of the Spider. Instead, we just see Evie going back top lane, currently down over 20 CS at over 6 minutes, and I don't think this matchup is really that bad for Cho'Gath.
Yeah, so and Saros, you can see here, putting in work on this Heimerdinger. Maybe not something that Ramune expected to see. We know that Saros plays it, and he's playing it well, but maybe the inexperience in the matchup showing a little bit there.
Yeah, indeed. We do see, a little bit of a lead going over to Detonation in all lanes right now, except for the bot lane. CS advantages in the top lane and the mid lane are starting to mount, and Tussle's getting a lot of lane farm. He picked up some there while Ramune was forced back after Steel came into gank. He's picking up a little bit more now that he is back in base. or that Ramune went back to base. So we'll have to keep track of how ahead Tussle does end up getting from Steel, simply off of the better farm that he's been getting recently. Tussle and Steel fighting each other right here. Not going to be able to go in. Evie and Paz fighting each other. This could be very dangerous. A lot of damage coming out. Rupture misses. Here comes the Cataclysm. There's no flash left on this Cho'Gath. I don't think he's got anywhere left to go. Looking for the last bit of damage. Hydra does come out, flashes forward, and picks up the last bit of damage.
Wow. Well played by Paz. Knowing his level 6 power spike on that Jarvan is going to be enough to outdamage Evie. Masterfully. Ooh, more trading going on.
I like how the camera just like instantly goes away. It's like, nah, we know nothing's going on here. But Ramune is finding Steel right now. Tussle's on the other side. Uses the cleanse already, trying to find the last bit of damage. Nowhere to go off that repel, but here's the turret. They should be able to get the last bit. Tussle's going very low. Ramune finds the last bit there onto Steel. Tussle, no assist, and here comes a teleport coming out from Paz. He does not have the ultimate available to him, and good slow coming out from Tussle is missiles coming over the wall. Man, it feels like
Saros with, I believe, a Rocket Max out of Heimerdinger just does so much damage right now. Caught my breath there for a moment. Was wondering if he was going to be able to pick up the return kill. Still, though, a good defense out of Rampage, able to prevent Steel from taking over the red buff. It's interesting, too, both teams have been playing very strong vision games. A couple of minutes ago, we saw Rampage had lit up Detonation Focus Me's bottom side of the jungle like a Christmas tree. And now Detonation Focus Me, with that early invade, Steel looking to play some deep blue wards, tried to set up that red buff, but wasn't quite able to in the end.
And now Ramune with these double buffs, both the red and the blue, is in a very interesting situation. Normally, especially in the top lane, that could be a one lane all by itself. But here against Saros is happy to let the minions push back towards him. He's able to set up a line of turrets, but it might not be able to simply because of the extra phosphorus bombs and rockets that are going to be coming out of this Corki now that he is level 6. And if he's not able to set it up, he doesn't want that to hit his own turret. He wants to be able to continue to fight that. But if they push it under their turret, we do see Dara coming up, potentially looking for a dive right now, as Saros is pushed under his own turret. They'll spot out Steel, and that'll probably put a kibosh on that.
Yeah, Rampage just following up on their earlier vision. Saw Steel with the pink ward that's cleverly placed way deep into their jungle. And so Dara just went up to confirm, make sure that Steel was on the Raptor camp like they thought he was, and he wasn't moving around to the top side. Rampage going to be happy with that information. Look, once again, wards all over the map. In addition to that Scuttle Crab, just so much vision for Rampage right now. Have to be feeling very safe at this stage of the game. They have to be careful, though. This top lane has not been going well at all for Evie, and Steel is looking to make another return to this area.
Yeah, it's a good pink ward coming out there. Steel's being smart, not yet showing himself, letting Paz make the discovery of this ward here. Gonna throw that out, trying to keep himself a little bit safe. Ooh, does get hit up by the Rupture. Here comes Tussle. They're gonna be a big fight right here. They're getting a lot of damage, but Flag and Drag set that up early. Well done by Paz. Doesn't even have to use the flash, which he doesn't have yet, and that definitely saved his life.
Yeah, Ramune as well, having just picked up the package. That was a very dangerous situation for Detonation Focus Me to be in. But a smart flag placement will allow Paz to get out of that just fine. As we look at both teams sort of trying to reset here, Steel has a solid vision on Tussle. Tussle not going to be able to find anything else in this mid or top lane. We'll just have to settle for going to the bottom lane and grabbing his Gromp.
And with this Infernal Drake coming up very soon, this could be a big tipping point. We've seen the last time that these guys played each other in Week 10 that the games are very even, and right now Detonation has a small lead, but not enough to become unstoppable quite yet. Unfortunate use of the package there. Must have been running out of the cooldown there. Otherwise, I would like to think that Ramune is more familiar with this champion than that. But this Infernal Drake could be a big spot for them, as we do see Tussle looks like he's going to be going over the wall here. Not aware of that ward there in the Tribush. Oh,
Ooh.
Very good pathing around here using the Blast Cone. It's just him. We do see the teleport coming up from Evie, but he doesn't have the feast available. But Dara will have the tankiness. They do start to push in the wave right here, but Tussle is not going to be going under quite yet. Too much wave clear is going to be available there for that champion. That was interesting use of the ward sweeper right there. He's going to be standing at another one, so they know exactly where he is. But there's a lot going on. Ooh, good damage coming out from
Oh, good
Saros.
lord. Yeah, that Heimerdinger showing its strength in the laning phase. Again, those rockets just do so much damage. You can push so hard.
Uh-oh. He won't
Oh
find
man.
him. No way. No way. Okay. He saw the back, but I was gonna be very surprised if he managed to pick that up. Instead, Saros is gonna content himself with a lot of damage here in the mid lane. And with Steel over near... Oh, this is cute. This is really cool. Wow. I've never seen this done before. Just throw a couple of turrets over the wall, pick up your enemy's raptors. Man, he plays a lot of this character, but Evie and Paz going at it. A bunch of minions here in favor of Evie, but it's not going to be quite enough. We do see the flag and drag come back in. Grasp of the Undying goes out for both sides. Here comes the Cataclysm. Instant flash from Evie. Steel is coming around. Yeah, could be very difficult here. Does manage to find the cocoon. Here comes Paz as well, getting the last bit of damage, but the silence comes up and ends up trading a killer right back. Tussle with the explosive cask already used. Shouldn't be able to find his way onto Paz. But again, Evie currently 0 and 3. Ended up picking up the Mercury Treads right here just to try and get away from the cocoon that's been coming out so accurately from Steel. But here comes Dara. Here comes the fight. Lots of damage already onto Utapon. Here comes the Blade Caller once more. Dara's getting a lot of damage right there using the Ignite, but the teleport's coming right back out from Paz. And this could be a very dead Yordle right here. Dara's already piecing out. Flag and Drag finds his way onto Tristana. Trying to find their last bit and get Dara as well, but not going to be able to do it. Tori does choose to save his flash, but that's going to be an Infernal Dragon going over to Detonation Focus Me, almost assuredly. No, Paz is choosing to back away.
I have to feel that Rampage was playing a little bit too ambitiously there. You know, they did just lose their top laner in that scuffle up in the top lane. Maybe a little bit too aggressive. They knew, you know, that Dara had the Ignite and they had the heal as well as an Infinity Edge advantage over that Essence Reaver, but did not account at all for Jarvan's Paz. You could even see a little bit in that scuffle. You could see a little bit of indecision. Oh,
misses the
smite. Will not be able to
there.
steal away the Raptor camp.
Yeah, Tussle tried to get it. Here comes Vivid. Does not manage the Quill quite yet, but here he comes trying to find his way onto it. Does manage the Grand Entrance. There comes the stun coming out, and I can't help but feel that was a total waste of Evie's teleport right there. Even just the channel, especially with the dragon coming up so soon, they might have been able to affect their defense if they had that available, if they chose to sacrifice. Oh, and here we go with no teleport, no flash. Evie is not even under turret. Should be going down here pretty quickly. And oh, managing to get out so far. He's going to be able to heal a decent amount. Does flash forward, pick it up with the Q into the Tiamat proc. But that was a little bit sloppy, even with the huge advantage he has already built up for himself.
Rampage seemed to be falling apart here across the map. Detonation Focus Me has an absolutely monstrous advantage in the top lane. Paz with the completed Black Cleaver. Evie does not have a completed item at all yet. And Sarah's pushing in this mid lane, preventing Ramune from making plays. Vivid now looking perhaps to make a play here. Just going to force him off the turret in order to take a 2-turret lead. I'm not sure that Tussle's going to be able to defend this by himself.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That could have very easily turned into a dead Gragas with no flash and no body slam there. If Steel had been super on the ball about it and been able to get that cocoon, that could have been another kill going over. But without knowledge of where everybody on Rampage was, they weren't confident enough to do that. Nor, I think, did they expect to have a Gragas suddenly appear. But this is only game 1, and these guys have an entire best of 5 ahead of them. Rampage still needs to think about this game because it's not unwinnable, but it is looking very difficult right now. But they have at least 2 more games to try and turn things around, and they have to figure out what is it that's not working. Is Evie's Cho'Gath just not up to par? I don't think so. He's been doing fairly well with that champion for the rest of the split thus far. Currently, he's been doing all right with it, but it's not strong enough to go up against Paz's Jarvan. And did they draft that wrong? Perhaps. I'm not sure that the Cho'Gath before the Jarvan was the best choice, because it's not the worst matchup, but it's not a good one. But is it Ramune on this Corki is not strong enough? I don't think so either. I think they just need
Hmm.
to find something else, potentially a different champion. Nothing necessarily wrong with the draft, but right now they're just not executing on what it was that we were hoping they would.
Yeah, and as Detonation Focus Me picks up a yet another turret for themselves,
Uh-oh. Oh, good
ooh,
rocket.
is going to be spotted out. Ramune using that rocket to scout the bush. Still, though, Saros able to easily clear this third outer turret. So much pressure from Detonation Focus Me across all lanes, and I think you have to give a lot of credit for this early game to Steel. I mean, he did have a couple failed invades, particularly around the red buff, but he's been making stuff happen all across the map. His two ganks in the top lane against Evie really set Paz up for success, and Paz able to play to Jarvan's strengths, able to pick up a couple of early kills by himself.
Yeah, and this
Ooh,
could
but
be a
this looks
turning point.
dangerous.
We see a lot of people coming in. Tussel's going to have to try and redeem himself for the missed smite on the Raptors earlier. Does not manage to stop it, and Paz is going to be able to pick that up. Not going to be able to block that right there. Simply, Evie's too far away, not able to support that. Does go over to the top laner here. Paz is going to look to bring it up into the top lane, and they already had a strong push going on there. And we have to ask ourselves, where does Rampage find their way back into this game? No lane is currently winning. They don't have the Dragon. They're down that. They're down the Rift Herald. They haven't picked up a tower yet. What can they do?
Well, at the moment, their current strategy is going to be farm up and wait. They do have this ultra powerful hyper carry in Yutori Miyasi's Tristana, and Tristana has been doing just fine for himself, despite the one sort of failed bot lane 2v2 skirmish there, has been able to keep up in farm with Yutapon Zaya. And so if Yutori gets to 6 items, we have a real strong and difficult game on our hands for Detonation Focus Me. But Rampage has to wait it out until that point. They have to be able to disengage with their defensive composition. At the moment, Detonation Focus Me with a 5,000 gold lead, it's going to be real tricky for them to make it through.
Yeah, and we do see here, I believe Evie is building towards, I believe it's the Righteous Glory, which is does give them a couple options to try and pick a couple of people out here and there with the increased ability to engage, but they're definitely a ways away. Dara is still working towards either an Ardent. Oh, he does. Unfortunate. Well done by Evie, but a little bit questionable there by Paz without knowing exactly where Evie is. This could be,
Yeah,
yeah.
an interesting thing about that Rift Herald that we saw, many times when the Rift Herald first was released was if your channel gets interrupted, the monster does not spawn at all, and so Evie able to completely nullify that advantage that
Oh,
Detonation Focus had.
Evie's
Still,
got a
though,
completed item.
woo! Righteous Glory not going to help him in the 1v1, but still a solid item nonetheless.
Yeah, not a whole lot. He does not have a lot of health. Still needs to build towards that Gargoyle Stone Plate, which is, I imagine, what that Chain Vest is for. But there's a little bit of armor, plenty of health, and mana coming out from that ever since the... Excuse me, since the recipe did change away from the Catalyst. But again, there's plenty of damage coming out from Rampage as they start to get later into the game. The critical strike build coming out from Corki with the Infinity Edge, the rapid fire cannon, and the static shiv are definitely going to be enough.
Oh,
Here comes Romney, not able to get a whole lot of damage there onto Sarah's, just taking a lot of his health back after using that Valkyrie. Tussle is coming out, gets a little bit of damage onto Steel, blocks up the cocoon, so Romney will be safe for now, but this is very dangerous as Vivid is starting to put pressure on the other side. They'll probably have to see this turret pretty quickly. They've lost their entire minion wave before even seeing the one coming out from Detonation side. And with the next dragon
yeah,
coming up in a couple of seconds, it's going to be difficult. I don't believe he picked up a package, but Tussel's trying to find his way onto anybody so they can just start getting a little bit of gold back in their pockets. It is another Infernal Drake. That's not what we need from this. Rampage needed something silly like an Air Drake to come out, something that Detonation is likely to leave for 10,
right.
15 plus minutes, as we've seen a couple of times when these two teams have played before.
Yeah, Detonation Focus Me playing this very intelligently, recognizing, hey, we have this advantage. We just need to not not screw it up, and we'll be fine. They've been doing a great job of rotating between both the middle lane and the bottom lane because they have that sort of shorter distance now with control of the Rampage jungle since the turrets are gone, and they've been using that to great effect. Even though they were unable to put out much chip damage on the tier 2 mid and bottom turrets, it does secure them that second Infernal Dragon, which will increase their damage against all of Rampage's champions, and they have to be happy about that.
Yeah, and we do see a bunch of item spikes coming out as well. Second items coming out for just about everyone. We see Paz on the Titanic Hydra as well as the Black Cleaver. I think this is honestly like the new meta golem build that we've been seeing on every 80 top laner. Just those two items coming together. Utori is fighting his way onto Vivid a little bit. Good damage. Never mind, misses the Phosphorus Bomb. But we see a second item coming out for Elise as well, picking up that Leandries. The Banshee's Veil rounding out Ceres' build a little bit. Steel getting a little bit of damage put right back down. Volatile Spiderling is not going to connect. But with a little bit more vision, they're going to be... Oh, no! He knows the ward's there, but it's not put in such a spot that it actually spots it out. That's just small little blunder coming out.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about those second item spikes if we're not going to have a team fight here. No, both teams just looking for vision around the Baron. Detonation Focus Me, they recognize now that the Baron is the objective that's on the table.
Uh-oh. Evie does have his flash avail, but with Ceres coming over, he's going to have to use it pretty quick. Paz is just getting a lot of auto attacks down, chunking him down to under half health. Without a Warmogs or anything to really keep him healthy right now, he's just going to have to go back to base. Hopefully he'll have enough for the Gargoyle Stone Plate, but until then, he's just going to be hurting.
Yeah, right. Anyways, going back to item builds, Ceres...
Jumping right in onto Utori, nowhere to go.
The Rakan combo.
Okay.
Vivid showing off his mastery of that champion. I think the first time that we saw that really come to play. Oh no!
There we go. Onto Steel right there, trying to find their way onto Ceres. Does throw down the ulted turret. It's at half health, but they do find their way. They get the first kill. Goes over to Dara. Here comes a teleport coming up from Paz. Ramne is in the middle. Nowhere really to go. He's going to be the next person to go down. There's so many low health bars. Paz finds the last bit. Here comes Steel, and Utapon is just now during the fight, trying to find his way onto Evie. Uses his feast. Picks up another one. Spider goes down. Here comes Paz re-engaging underneath the turret. Utapon is forced to use that ultimate just to keep himself safe and not die to the turret on his way out. But ultimately a 2-for-2. But the turret is going to go over to Detonation.
Yeah, wow, what an interesting fight. Rampage trying to take advantage. They recognize that, hey, we just lost a member, but Vivid is stuck in the top lane without Flash or Ultimate. You know, we have the advantage in terms of CC abilities if we're able to use it. And that's why they thought that they could make that play with the Flash initiation at the Alistar. Unfortunately, not quite enough. Detonation Focus Me able to stall long enough with the Elise Repel and with their CC in order to get Paz into that fight and able to turn the tides and make it a 2-for-2.
And we did see that even though you kill Ceros, it's not necessarily enough to knock him out of the fight. The turret placement that he had there was doing damage for the entirety of its lifespan. And we saw how much damage it just did to Ramne throughout that fight. And Ramne was a little bit too far forward. We said he tends to play a little bit more defensively most of the time. And that was a very aggressive, un-Ramne-like, package and Valkyrie forward. And it ended up getting him killed pretty handily right there. Paz and Evie finding each other once again. Paz is not necessarily getting the better of this quite yet, despite the fact that Evie is currently 1-5 on that champion.
Yeah. It's a tricky game to navigate for Evie. He still needs to find a way to be useful to his team, despite knowing that he will never, ever win a 1v1.
Vivid goes in onto Alistar right here. Dara is blown very quickly to bits. Trying to find a little bit of damage right back, but the Explosive Cask is going to knock people away instead of towards the team, and they're going to be able to disengage from that all right.
Unfortunate for Dara there. Played a little bit too loose with his own life. Thought maybe I can control this vision. I really don't want Detonation Focus Me to get.
Oh, good stun comes over the wall, trying to find his way onto Tussle. Here comes the quickness and the grand entrance, finds its way, gets another one. But wow, that auto attack! I didn't see that going through, but it gets the crit on to Vivid, and they're going to end up trading that right back. They're going to go right to the Baron. Now that Tussle is dead, Avi's going to come over. He still has the Feast available, and there's a little bit low health bars. I don't think he wants to complete that. Does get tagged
Oh
up a little
no.
bit, uses the Gargoyle Stone Plate, keep himself healthy for a relatively long time. Just wants to get onto Steel to deny the smite, but not going to be able to do so. Now they're going to go right back to where they were before.
Yeah, Rampage is sort of falling apart here. I mean, it was bad already when Dara got caught out, but then for Tussle to immediately make the same mistake, this is really dangerous for them to contest this once more.
Yeah,
Steel getting pretty low.
Dara
We'll
goes
get this.
in. Romney is jumped on by Paz. Dara is already dead. Romney is trying to run away. Does not have the flash available, but the low health bars on Steel and Saros mean that they don't want to find a full engage. And with the next dragon coming up in a couple of seconds, I don't really blame them. They just want to steal away this red buff. Oh, they do to try and find their way into Romney. Does slows do not stop backs, turns out.
Yeah, good attempt from Detonation Focus Me, and able to take every advantage of the series of mistakes at a Rampage. Steel, is he gonna be okay?
He
He's
should.
not.
He has his smite available, and he does manage
Okay.
to pick up the...
All right, we're good. It's okay. But still, what a huge swing yet again for Detonation Focus Me. They pick up third Infernal, Baron, and both enemy buffs uh, before this recall. This is going to be a very, very huge and very scary Detonation Focus Me as they look to break the base of Rampage.
Yeah, and with such a large gold lead as well, already over 10,000 gold before the 30-minute mark, there's not a lot of ways for Rampage back into this game beyond some disastrous misplays coming out from Detonation Focus Me. But it turns out when you put down a turret, you don't need to play a whole lot more after that. Just pop out Azonia's, which he doesn't have quite yet. He'll have it at some point, I'm sure, but just needs to keep himself alive so he can get a couple more missiles in. But the turrets will do most of the work at that point. And now we're going to see Detonation Focus Me likely transitioning to the kind of pressure game that we've seen so many times from them. These guys know how to strangle each other. They know what to do. They've played against each other for so many years that there's not a whole lot of surprises. And the only surprise that we're likely to see this game is Rampage coming out doing something silly in order to try and pull this one back into something that they can potentially win. But it's looking grim right now.
Yeah, and Detonation Focus Me playing it smart, playing to their strengths, starting the 1-3-1 split push in order to put maximum damage on these turrets with that Baron buff as they look to close out this game. They have them in a chokehold. It's up to Detonation Focus Me to execute, however.
Yeah, how did Utori get so low?
One misplaced carry could break this base, but Saros is such a scary monster by himself up in the top lane. Look at that chunk. Good lord.
Yeah, and there goes the inhibitor turret in the bot lane, and that's probably just going to be the game. There's not a whole lot left for Rampage to do. Well, I don't really know what to say at this point. I don't think Rampage just got a way back in. They're trying to go back in, trying to find their way onto Vivid and Paz, but they don't attack back, and that just means they're able to walk away from the inhibitor turret. With the bottom inhibitor down, they're just going to be able to move around with the Baron buff a little bit more. Now moving in towards the mid lane. Wow, doing so much damage, just blowing that up with one caster minion. Here comes Paz into the fray, gets onto Evie. Dar's on the back line. Here comes Romney around the side, getting some good damage with the Phosphorus Bomb, but it is going to be the first one going down as Paz knocked in the Guardian Angel, and here comes Vivid back on the other side, uses the quickness and the Grand Entrance. Nobody has died yet, and Saros is still pushing up in the top lane, finds his way onto the first inhibitor turret. That was a 4v5 for Detonation Focus Me, and now they're managing to get another objective while everybody else is torn away.
60.7k gold for Detonation Focus Me. And look at how hard Rampage had to struggle to make that fight work, despite being in a 5v4. It is so rough for them right now. And they still couldn't find any kills. They had an entire person extra with CC. They had Evie there in combination with the Alistar and the Gragas, but they just don't have the damage to follow up on the lockdown. And Detonation Focus Me able to walk away with 2 inhibitors now.
Yeah, we said we saw a lot of this last year where Utori was able to hit that flame horizon of over 100 CS up on your opponent, but we didn't talk about it before the game started, but Yutapon and Yutori Miyashi are the two best ADCs in Japan, bar none. If one of them is at the top in every stat, and if they're not, it's because the other one is taking that stat away from them. Yutori has the highest gold, highest CS per minute. Yutapon's right behind him with the best KD. I believe he had the best KDA last time I checked, but these two guys just head to head all the time, and Itori is a great ADC, but he's not that far ahead of Utapone in that regard, and he's not able to find all his extra CS that he is up against so many other players. Look at that, just one auto attack onto Tussle. Here comes Dara around the side, tries to find his way onto Utapone. Evi's using everything he can, knocks out Saros immediately. Here comes Paz, he does have the Cataclysm going down. Dara's on the wrong side of the fight with no more Unbreakable Will. He's going to be the next to fall. There's the cleanse coming out from Itori, getting away from the cocoon. But that's going to be too much damage. Utapone's going super far forward, very aggressive. Vivid's trying to support him. Utapone gets another couple of crits, picks up Romney as well. Yutori's going to be the next one to fall, uses the Feather Storm, and Tussle's the only one left alive. Just kidding, he's going to go down. A triple kill going over to Utapone as they clean up game 1, going up 1-0 in the series here up against Rampage.
Yeah, well played, well executed by Detonation Focus Me. Just a couple early game advantages gained for them that they were able to snowball into this huge, dominant victory. I have to give a lot of credit to Paz and Steel, able to just completely dominate Paz in that top lane and then transition that through teleport down into the other lanes and just sweep the game.
Yeah, I really hope we're able to see a transition from that from Rampage. We know they're a better team than that. And that just did not look like anything they wanted to do. Everything they tried to do just went wrong. And I think it's, again, you said it earlier, but still able to move around the map just a little bit better than Tussle. Tussle was uncharacteristically passive during the entirety of that game.
Yeah, I'd like to see, I know that Lee Sin is a little bit difficult to navigate at the moment. But I'd like to see Tussle return to his Lee Sin because we've seen it work for him in these clutch and difficult situations in LJL finals even last split. And so I'm curious to see if that's going to be an adaptation from him. Also on Rampage's side, I'm curious to see as they move forward into game 2 whether or not they want to ban that Heimerdinger because it did not feel to me that Raumane was adequately prepared for that champion out of Saros.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But for now, as we go into the break right now, don't go anywhere. We are going to see Rampage try and bring it back, even up the score in Game 2. But we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned, everybody, and we'll be back. I said that so many times. I'm going to stop saying that. Yell at me next time.